put your hand over your eyes and just open my eyes to see the spiritual truth today. And now over your ears. I open my ears to hear the spiritual truth today. Now, if you just put your hand over your heart and extend out your arms, I open my heart to receive the spiritual truth today. The spiritual truth that I'm working with today is that gratitude is causal. Gratitude causes good things to happen in your life. Gratitude causes money that you didn't expect to come to you. Gratitude causes the spouse who's trying to change you. I know nobody here has a nagging spouse, but if you did have a nagging spouse, gratitude would change that nagging spouse's behavior. Gratitude will change that project that's stuck. You know, that project that you've had and you've wanted to do it, but it's just stuck. Gratitude will move that project. Gratitude will get your kids to clean up their room. That might be a little too much. Okay. Too much pressure on gratitude. But here's what's not too much. Gratitude will change your vibration. It'll change your vibration in such a way that you will have a better life than you have right now. Even those of us in the congregation who would say, my life is great right now, it'll be even greater with gratitude in your life. We're in a series right now that will help us to begin to develop some spiritual practices and ways of being that can bring the great into our life. You know, Ernest Holmes said, there is good in this world for you, and it's just you can have it. The book is called The Gifts of Imperfection. Let go of who you think you're supposed to be and embrace who you are. Your Guide to a Wholehearted Life. Quite a title. Your Guide to a Wholehearted Life. Well, for those of you who are visiting today, here's what I want you to know. We believe with all of our heart and all of our soul, and we teach with every fiber of our being that you are whole, perfect, and complete right now. But we also know that we have attracted in our lives ways of being that aren't working for us. We have attracted imperfections to ourselves. And sometimes they're thoughts, sometimes they're behaviors, and sometimes they become patterns of behavior. And when our imperfections become patterns of behavior, we begin to think that's who we are. It is not who we are. But it is important that we do the work to uncover those behaviors and patterns so that we can get to the real us, the representations of spirit on this planet. See, a lot of us have an idea that if we just shove down those imperfections, if we don't look at them, if we hide them and we hide from them, they'll go away. But they don't. What this book is teaching us is we have to bring them up to the light of day. It's not a new teaching, but it's a good reminder. We have to bring those imperfections up to the light of day and take an honest look at them. It's like if your car has a sound that you know is not the right sound. It shouldn't be in your engine. You know that. And so you take it someplace so somebody can diagnose it and get it fixed. Well, the same thing is true with our imperfections. If we begin to notice our imperfections, and we notice them because our life is not working, we begin to notice our imperfections, we have to look at them in the same way the mechanic looks at your car, deeply until we can, and not stop until we can find out what's going on. This book about imperfections, however, is not about not making mistakes. We want you to make mistakes. It's important for all of us to make mistakes. It's a good thing. Because when we make mistakes, it's a signal to the universe and to ourselves that we're stepping out of the little safe box, that we're moving out onto the limb where the good fruit is. We're going to go out and do something that's kind of scary in our lives. And to do that, we have to make mistakes. Well, here is what she talks about. The last part of this very long title is called Your Guide to a Wholehearted Life. And so she has what she calls guideposts. We took the first 3 guideposts last week, and those are in the bookstore. Or you can like our Facebook page, the Center for Spiritual Awareness, and you can see the whole thing for free. on our Facebook page for the last 2 weeks to catch up to where we are right now. Where we are today is we're starting with number 4, the 4th guidepost, and that is cultivating gratitude and joy. And the subtitle is letting go of scarcity and fear of the dark. Now, when she's talking about the dark, she's not talking about nighttime. She's talking about that dark place inside of us that we're so afraid of looking at. That's the kind of dark that we need to let go of. She makes a distinction, this cultivating gratitude. She makes a distinction between practicing gratitude and cultivating an attitude of gratitude. And let's look at what she says. For years, I subscribed to the notion of an attitude of gratitude. I've since learned that an attitude is an orientation or a way of thinking, that having an attitude doesn't always translate to behavior. For example, it would be reasonable to say that I have a yoga attitude. The ideals and beliefs that guide my life are very in line with the ideas and beliefs that I associate with yoga. I value mindfulness, breathing, and the mind-body-spirit connection. I even have yoga outfits. But let me assure you, my yoga attitude and outfits don't mean jack if you put me on a yoga mat and ask me to stand on my head or strike a pose. As I'm sitting here writing this, I've never practiced yoga. I plan to change that between now and the time you're holding this book in your hand. But to date, I've never put my attitude into action. So where it really matters, on the mat, my yoga attitude doesn't count for much. See, we have to practice this idea of gratitude. And practicing gratitude takes 2 things. The first thing it takes is for us to begin to have a gratitude practice. Now, many of us in this room have gratitude practice. We've been taught we have to have a gratitude practice. And so we do. Every night, we write down what we were grateful for that day. And that's what we're talking about. Just journaling your gratitude. Make it a practice. Make it a before I go to sleep, I'm going to sit down somewhere. You don't need a fancy journal. You can do it on the back of an envelope. But I recommend that you write it down. And the reason is this. When we think we're just going to say our gratitudes in our mind, we lose focus. Any little shiny thing over here, or any little, the television says something over here or something happens, we're gone. But when you have a pencil and a paper in front of you, you're much more likely to stay focused. So the first one is a gratitude practice. The second thing we ask you to do is to say a gratitude out loud every day. Outright. Don't just think it, but say it. Say it to somebody who is bringing some value or some benefit into your life. You don't even need to know them. Or you can say it to yourself. I'm so thankful today that you blah, blah, blah. But let me give you an example of how easy this is if we're awake and aware. I was at the grocery store not long ago, and there was a woman who appeared to be somewhat developmentally disabled in front of me. And she was having a hard time negotiating, going through the line and getting her money out and following all the instructions and doing all of that. And the woman behind the cash register was so respectful and so kind. She wasn't condescending for one little minute. She just helped that woman to be able to navigate and negotiate the next step of what she had to do. And it filled my heart. Now, I could have just allowed it to fill my heart. And I've done that many times where my heart was just full and I didn't say anything. But I took the moment to say, you modeled something so beautiful to me today. And I'm so grateful to you that you were able to do that with this customer. It made her feel good, and it made me feel good. Gratitude is causal in our life. Brown says this. She says that gratitude without practice is like faith without works. It's not alive. It doesn't come alive for us. Brown reminds us also that being in gratitude, being in a state of gratitude and joy, doesn't always make us happy. See, happiness and joy are different things. Happiness comes to us from external circumstances. Things out there make us happy. We have to begin to work to make joy which is part of our soul. See, happiness is circumstances. Joy comes from our soul. One theologian in the book says that it is the good mood of the soul when we look at that deeper joy. But we want to be careful because here is the thing. It can be intense. That deeper joy that just fills your heart, it can be intense and it can be vulnerable. And it can make us throw up those roadblocks to our good that you and I are so good at throwing up in our life. You know, I hear people say, I'd rather not want something because I don't want to be disappointed. I'd rather not be in joy because I don't want the other shoe to drop. See, those are comments we've all made in our life. And when we're there, we are not in a state of cultivating gratitude and joy, but we are in a mindset of scarcity and lack and limitation. In order to move from lack and limitation into joy, we need to understand this one spiritual concept that sometimes escapes me, and I suspect it sometimes escapes you, and that is the spiritual concept of sufficiency. Now, there's a woman that she quotes in the book who's one of my favorites. She's kind of an abundance writer. She's a guru. Her name is Lynn Twist, and here's what Lynn Twist says about sufficiency. We each have the choice in any sitting to step back and let go of mindset of scarcity. Once we let go of scarcity, we discover the surprising truth of sufficiency. By sufficiency, I don't mean a quantity of anything. Sufficiency isn't 2 steps up from poverty or 1 step short of abundance. It isn't a measure of barely enough or more than enough. Sufficiency isn't an amount at all. It's an experience, a context we generate, a declaration, a knowing that there is enough and that we are enough. Let me say that part again. It's a declaration of knowing that there is enough and that we are enough. Sufficiency reaches inside of each of us, and we can call it forward. So part of your homework this week on working with this is that's on page 83. Get your book out. If you haven't have the book, we have them. We encourage you to get it and read along with us. Take 5 minutes and do what Ernest Holmes taught us to do, which is to contemplate a paragraph of spiritual nourishment. Contemplate this notion of sufficiency. And without even efforting it, not even efforting it, if you will contemplate that for 5 minutes, I promise you what will happen is scarcity will begin to dissolve. It won't go away in an instant or in the twinkling of an eye, but it will begin to dissolve in your life. And it's so important. See, the primary reason we don't begin to cultivate this thing called joy is we're just afraid of it. Let's look at it, the 5th thing, because I realize we have to move along here. The 5th guidepost is to cultivate intuition and begin to trust in faith. Cultivate intuition and begin to trust in faith. See, one of the reasons that we don't cultivate intuition is because we have this misunderstanding of what it is. We think that it is stepping off the ledge without reason, that there's no reasoning involved. But what she talks about in the book, and Ernest Holmes talks about in our textbook, is reason can never leave you. It will never leave you. So if you have an intuitive hunch, if something out there is different than what it should be out there, but you have an intuitive hunch, begin to trust it. Because it has already passed through your reasoning. It may not have passed through society's reasoning, but it's passed through your reasoning in your life. So we've all experienced that thing of meeting somebody who's kind of smarmy, haven't we? They're saying all the right things, but you just get a smarmy feel of them, you know? And you want to trust your gut in that thing because it's already past your reasoning. It's not something that it just kind of hits you without any reasoning at all. She says in the book, she said, whenever she is sitting around and wondering why, and asks herself the questions, what does your gut say about this? She says, I have no idea. We haven't spoken in years. I love that. I have no idea. We haven't, and that's true for us too. We haven't spoken to our gut in years because we're kind of nervous about it. We think, well, it flies in the face of what society is saying. It flies in the face of what the conditions look like out there. It flies in the face of what the doctor is saying about my diagnosis. But somewhere inside of you, you know it's not true. Somewhere inside of you, your gut is telling you something different, and our work is to trust it. Well, trusting and cultivating our intuition is part of it. The other part of it is beginning to learn how to trust our faith. And she's not talking about the faith of a religion. She's talking about having faith in the mystery of life. We don't talk about that a lot in Science of Mind, but there is a mystery of life. We can begin to understand it, but it still is there. We want to begin to find courage to believe in that which we cannot see. We can't see it. We can't see the end, but we believe in the end. When we begin to do that, we have the strength to let go of uncertainty. See, we hate uncertainty, you and I. We hate that. Because we hate it, we allow everybody else who is certain to take over our lives, don't we? I mean, there are a lot of people who are certain how I should live my life. I'm a little uncertain sometimes. And whenever I'm uncertain, I give my power to those who are certain. And I'm telling you, they're in your families, they're in your cubbies at work, they're everywhere. They're at the gas station. They are certain how you should do things. And when we do that, we give up ourselves. That's why it's so important to let go of our fear of uncertainty. See, it's okay to be uncertain in this lifetime. See, when the Lord Buddha said that all suffering is a form of attachment, I wish he would have added all suffering is a form of attachment, especially that grip we have on certainty. It's okay to be uncertain in this life. You know, I see some people, I hear some people say, you know, I haven't been with anybody in a while. I kind of like to start dating, but, you know, I don't know. I don't know if they're the right one. Well, I mean, it's dinner. You don't have to know if they're the right one. You know, you don't have to be certain. You can be uncertain and go on a date. We have 66 people going to Costa Rica with us. Yeah. And I hope to see all of you here on February 7th at 3 o'clock because we're going to have a great time. We're going to have a meeting and some snacks over there off the carpet, and it's going to be a great time together. But I'm going to tell you something. Those people who are going to Costa Rica with us understand that it's an uncertainty that we're stepping into. It's not the same as the United States. They do things differently. Those of you who've traveled abroad, you know it looks much different. And sometimes it's downright inconvenient because they don't do things like we do. It's an uncertainty that we're stepping into. See, when we have that grip on certainty, we're afraid for a venture. We give up on adventure in our lives. We give it away. We give up thinking outside of the box. We give up that dream that we used to have. We give all of that up because we are afraid. But here's the thing, to engage in a wholehearted life, cultivating these two things of intuition and faith and letting go of your fear of uncertainty is a requirement. It's a requirement for a wholehearted life. Let's go on to the final one. Final one is cultivating creativity, letting go of comparison. Cultivating creativity and letting go of comparison. See, my belief is that creativity is the closest synonym for God and freedom that I can even think of. It's a powerful thing, this idea of creativity. Julia Cameron says this: true creativity is nothing more than taking dictation from the divine. And she's not talking about a divine in the sky. She's talking about a divinity that's within each and every one of us. Taking that divinity. But here's what happens. We stop because we think we're not as good as. Our creativity is not as, we compare ourselves. The whole notion of comparing ourselves stops us. I want to share with you a story that that I have told before. It's one of my favorites from one of my favorite scriptures, Robert Fulghum's "Uh-oh." And of the last couple of years, I've been a frequent guest in schools, most often invited by kindergartens and colleges. The environments differ only in scale. In the beginner's classroom and on the university campus, the same opportunities and facilities exist. Tools for reading and writing are there, words and numbers, areas devoted to scientific experiments are in labs or work boxes, and those things necessary for the arts, paint, music, costumes, room to dance, likewise present and available. In kindergarten, however, the resources are in one room with access for all. In colleges, they are separate buildings with limited availability. But the most apparent difference is in the self-image of the students. Ask a kindergarten class, how many of you can draw? All hands shoot up. Yes, of course we can draw, all of us. Well, what can you draw? Anything. How about a dog eating a fire truck in a jungle? Sure, how big do you want it? How many of you can sing? All hands. Of course we can sing. What can you sing? Anything. What if you don't know the words? No problem, we make them up. Let's sing. Now, why not? How many of you can dance? Unanimous again. What kind of music do you like to dance to? Any kind. Let's dance. Now? Sure, why not? Do you like to act in plays? Yes, sure we do. We love musical instruments. Yes. Do you write poetry? Of course. Can we read and write and count? Yes. We're learning all that stuff now. The answer is yes, over and over, yes. The children are confident in spirit, infinite in resources, and eager to learn. Everything is still possible. Try those same questions on a college audience. A small percentage of students will raise their hands if asked if they can draw or dance or sing or paint or act in a play. Not infrequently, those who do raise their hand will want to qualify their response with their limitation. I only play the piano. I only draw horses. I only dance to rock and roll. I only sing in the shower. Why these limitations? College students answer they don't have the talent, are not majoring in the subject, and have none of those things since about the third grade or worse. See, the thing is that that's in college. The average age of this room, we would answer even less often the words yes, because we've given up on that notion that we can be creative due to our worry that it won't be good as somebody else's. See, the definition of comparison here is fitting in and being better than. Fitting in and being better than. It's crazy making. In fact, psychologists tell us that people in middle school, children in middle school, who have no clinical diagnosis of mental illness will have the same kinds of symptoms of those people with schizophrenia. And the psychologists probably have a number of reasons why. I think it's partially because of that crazy making place that they are in of trying to fit in and be better than. Fit in and be better than. It's crazy making, but here's the thing. It doesn't just stop in middle school. It's right here. It's right here. You know, we're so afraid to show our work. Now, some of us have pushed past that, and we think that our creativity is important enough, or we've kind of excelled in one area of creativity. And so we'll work with that, and we'll work with it. But overall creativity, we're afraid of making mistakes. Now, I've never talked to Sam or any of the guys in the band, but my guess is if I were to say to them, have you ever gone on stage and made a mistake? They might say, yeah, of course we have. At some point in our lives, we've made that, but it didn't stop them. They weren't worried about comparing or fitting in. They were worried about giving their gift. And that's how we have to begin to treat this notion of creativity. The other reason we're not creative is because a lot of us are stuck in trying to achieve. And creativity takes time wasting. You know what I mean? I'm about doing something. I'm not about a lot of time wasting. I have a lot of stuff to do, you know? And so wasting my time with scrapbooking, no, I don't think I'll be doing that. But I should be. I should be doing some form of creativity. I just spent a couple of days in Sonoma County with my pals up there getting ready for Woman Spirit, the last Woman Spirit in 2015. And one of the women had a mandala coloring book. And I thought, I would like to do that. I don't have to think anything up. I just have to put beautiful color on paper and see what comes out. You see how easy creativity is? People have been asking me for a while if I would blog. No, I'm not going to blog. But what I realized is that's a form of creativity. Bloggers are being creative in their life. There's so many different ways that you and I can be creative on the planet. So here's our homework. If we want to march toward a more wholehearted life, we have to escape these bounds of comparison and do some kind of creativity. Tiny, tiny, tiny. It can be little. It can be a small thing. But this week, I want to invite you to make a commitment to read page 83 and contemplate it, if you have the book, and I want you to do some one little thing creative before you come back here next week and we wrap this series up. Let's take this message into prayer. Knowing that there is one power and one love. We're all part of that love, every single one of us. I'm so happy that there is a presence that runs through me and through every single person. And it's not two presences, it's just one presence, the presence of love. I give thanks for that. I release this word into the law, and together we say, and so it is.